You know, there are people that actually miss you, Bob, so just come on out.
No, I refuse.
There's no one around here that's gonna laugh at you, okay?
No, they're going to call me a corporate shill who has Bobby Kotick up my butt.
Dude, they won't, and who cares about them? I mean, you like how you look, so just come on out. See, there you go, buddy. Looking good.
Hey, are you laughing?
No. In fact, you look like a fairy princess, Bob.
Princess? Bitch, I'm the queen bee, motherf***.
Hey, it's Soul, and welcome back to another episode of Warcraft Weekly, and welcome to BlizzCon 2020. I wish. Let's give a big shout out to the wonderful subscribers on Twitch, the beloved patrons, and to a few new newcomers. A big welcome to Michael, KG, Sean, and Gary. It's thanks to your guys' support that I can finally afford an emote while maintaining my normal diet. What diet, you ask? Well, just avoiding anything that has calories. Eating disorders are not a joke, kids. Take up a healthy diet, and while we're at it, wash your nasty ass hands. Ooh, it took a week or so, but the dust kicked up by the 9.0 patch is settling. Add-ons are mostly working, and the future of add-ons is going to be a big topic of today's weekly. Just the other day, Overwolf, the company that will soon take over for Twitch as the operator of CurseForge, launched their first public alpha of the new CurseForge client. I tried it out, and I made faces like, oh, yeah, that's okay. That's not so bad, as well as, ooh, okay, that just happened. A link to that mess is going to be in the description below. But this video was watched by the CEO of Overwolf, and man, trying to keep a straight face as I butcher his name, Uri Marchand. And I think he's mad. I had an opportunity to ask him a few questions directly, and he gave on-the-record answers, which I will share with you and react to right now. So, let's go. I asked him to explain the model of distributing 70% of advertising and subscription revenue to creators, as well as letting subscribers distribute where their money goes. He mentioned this briefly before going on the record. He writes, and I'm going to show you his unedited responses. In the short term and until roughly the end of the year, we'd continue operation just how Twitch did with their rewards program. Starting next year, we plan to pivot for a model which is kind of a mix of Spotify and Humble Bundle. Spotify takes all of the money generated from users, whether by advertisement or subscriptions, and puts it in a big pot. They then divide that pot by the total share of streams each artist received. We plan to distribute ad revenue and sub contributions based on a usage of mods. In essence, the more popular the mod, the larger the piece of the pie it gets. The humble angle that we plan to give gamers the ability to customize their contributions and control which add-on dev gets what percentage of the donation made. We heard a number of mod authors criticizing the way it has been done so far, and we're committed to evolving the model as described here. So what was the old Twitch/CurseForge model? According to the CurseForge page, instead of being paid cash money every week or month, you're allocated a number of points each day, and each point is worth a nickel. Ooh. When you have enough points, you can redeem them for a cash payout or Amazon gift cards, typical trillion-dollar company. As an outside observer, that sounds a little bit sucky. Overwolf claims that with their new model, it's going to go straight to cash payout, and it's important to point out that Overwolf has been in the add-on and mod distribution business for quite some time, for better or worse. The Humble Bundle approach is a bit interesting too though. I'll point out that a subscription to Overwolf is $3 a month if you want to get rid of advertisements, meaning roughly $2 per user goes to authors of their choice, and this is on top of the 70% ad revenue split. Of course, we as users can decide to not use the Overwolf client at all and donate directly to the author, be one of their patrons, and so on and so forth, but it's not a bad alternative to have someone else's money, namely the advertising people, go towards the add-on community. On the subject of advertisements, I asked what sorts of ads will Overwolf display and how will they work, beyond pointing out that, hey, it's over there in that corner. His answer, static banners or muted video ads which will have sound only if you click unmute. We also run quality control on these ads, for example through GeoEdge and other services. The ad unit is what you currently see in the client. From what testing I did so far, Overwolf doesn't pre-install some overlay in-game to piss you off or run ads. Ads themselves don't work in the alpha client, and he didn't answer as to examples of what exact ads would appear, but so far that's pretty much all I've got to say on it. I pointed out that installing the new CurseForge client also installs the full-on Overwolf client too, which is basically, it's basically not an add-on manager, and I couldn't care less for it, so I sort of asked if you could just make the CurseForge client a standalone thing. According to Yuri, unfortunately, it's impossible to make CurseForge a strictly standalone client because Overwolf is the engine that enables CurseForge to work. For more context, the CurseForge app itself, zipped, is about 3.5 megabytes. It uses the Overwolf Chromium engine to run and different services to operate like analytics, patching, monetization, overlay, etc., etc. Overwolf for CurseForge is kind of like a BattleNet for WoW and is required for it to operate. And yet the Twitch and the WoW Up clients work just fine. But anyway, my system can handle it, but there are many users out there who budget their memory, making this a damn near deal breaker for them. But I tried, right? I tried, so yeah, there's that. In an October 11th tweet, the Overwolf Twitter said pretty plainly that they don't want to wage war against third-party mod managers like Azure or WoW Up, and that they're seeking conversations with these developers to find sustainable solutions. So I asked Uri to elaborate. His response, we don't have a concrete plan yet, but it is a major priority to work with third-party mod managers in a way that makes sense for people. We have heard feedback that mod managers want an official API, so we are currently exploring what this would look like with rate limits and access keys. Right now, we're focused on releasing a high-quality client app that will serve users and continuing conversations with mod managers. What will likely happen is releasing an official API at some point next year. The key items to figure out are 1. Allow authors to decide who distributes their creations, 2. Making sure this doesn't affect the rewards and compensation, and 3. Managing server-side/content delivery network costs. Let me do my best to translate here. Overwolf is going to first concentrate on getting their CurseForge client up and running. In the meantime, they're also working on making a solution for other add-on managers by creating an API or a key that is specific to them. That way, Overwolf has a better idea of which mods are the most used, and then they can pay authors fairly. Imagine if 50% of add-on users did use Overwolf, 40 of them got them from like other sources, and then the last 10%, well, they don't even know what add-ons are. That's a lot of missing data. There's one important question to follow up on, and that's whether Overwolf will encourage or even compel these other add-on managers to run ads as well. Even if there was some sort of pay model where the advertising money went like 70% for authors as promised, 20% for Overwolf, and like 10% for add-on managers, this would end up causing a lot of drama because now we're talking a lot about money. Since we're at an early stage though, I didn't want to follow up on this knowing that I would get a non-answer, but there's always next time. The earlier answer sort of addressed this other question, but I did ask if Overwolf was going to aggressively seek to have authors distribute exclusively on the Overwolf platform and not places like WoW Interface or GitHub. So his response, we want people to choose CurseForge because it's a better product that also strongly supports the add-on devs, not because it's a monopoly or the only option on the market. Creators own the IP of their products and can publish their creations wherever they choose. Some of the most popular add-ons on CurseForge, like DBM, always publish their creations on open sources like GitHub. These creators don't need permission from us to do this, and we're looking to continue to provide a freedom of choice for creators. Not too much for me to say on that, so on to the next question. I pointed out that Overwolf has a bad rep based on past decisions and asked how they plan on gaining or regaining the confidence of potential users. This final answer is very long and corporate. I expect nothing less from Overwolf's head cheerleader, know what I mean? But he says, similar to other software products like Battle.net, Discord, and Steam, our client collects data to work, personalize their experience, and share analytical data that is instrumental to improvement. We care about our users' privacy, and that's why everybody can opt out of the personalized experience and sharing analytical data. Overwolf is committed to being transparent when it comes to what data is collected at each level. We have a detailed blog spot about how we handle data here. We made a number of changes to our privacy policy earlier this year. One change is that we previously sold aggregated data, as in no personal information, to Newzoo, a trusted research agency that publishes reports on the gaming market, for example, like the top 10 played games in the United States. In June, we made the internal decision that we are not comfortable sharing any data with anyone, not even a research agency, so we ended that relationship and amended our privacy policy to reflect that. We acknowledge that our track record is not spotless, but our mistakes were never from bad intentions, it was mostly poor product decisions, releasing unpolished services, and just making mistakes. We are doing everything in our power to create services that support creators and bring value to gamers. We've learned the hard way that trust is easy to lose and hard to earn back. We hope through that in time, and by staying true to our values and listening to our authors and gamers, we will be able to do just that, earn back the trust of everyone who still has concerns. I'm not going to respond line for line to that, except I'm going to point out that the options to share information are not presented during installation of the client or first boot, and they are on by default, but they are at least easy enough to turn off. Offering these options up front would be a nice courtesy and another nod to transparency. So overall, I feel like with Overwolf's approach, they are giving add-on authors what hopes to be a fair payout, working with third-party add-on managers to give we add-on users options on how to download, and otherwise trying to make like a decent client, which other than being a bit of a resource hog in its alpha state, it feels pretty stable, and it's more functional than the Twitch client, surprisingly enough. Personally, I am going to continue to use a single file executable like WowUp as my add-on manager because it's just straight up easy. It's not perfect either though, sometimes it doesn't acknowledge updates and it's lost a few add-ons that the Twitch and the CurseForge clients could find. I'm going to feel a lot better knowing that even if I decide to never use Overwolf, that creators are getting their fair shake. And no, I was not paid to cover this. Save your tinfoil hats for lore. Ooh. But guess what, folks? There is other news to talk about. In some classic news, more Naxxramas testing is underway on the PTR. Yeah, raid testing for like a 15-year-old. Okay, yeah, and that's an old joke, but the slightly more exciting news came from the data miners of WoW, who discovered strings for another classic beta, signs that a Burning Crusade classic could be on its way soon. I mean, obviously, right? I mean, if not that, what would it be? Classic Lich King? Classic BFA? Hoo-hoo. A new Transmog set wandered its way into the Blizzard shop, delighting and horrifying players with shameless whimsy. This is where I'm supposed to bring up ye old conversation of the ethics of introducing more cash shop items in a game that already has both a subscription model and a path to trading virtual currency that Blizzard makes a profit off of. But instead, I'm going to lay down some boring facts and a visual montage of whataboutism. There are multiple paths to obtain this transmog, either through gold, taking advantage of a subscription bundle, or throwing down good old cash. Blizzard's been pushing these occasional promos for a while now, and there doesn't seem to be any indication or reason for it to end. And just my opinion, it could be worse. Folks across social media have shared a theory that maybe this Transmog set was going to be part of the virtual ticket digital reward bundle thing in BlizzCon 2020, at least it would have been if it ever materialized, thanks to the pandemic. In fact, according to a tweet, it would have been this weekend, making this theory extremely plausible. So if it wasn't bitching over this 6-month promotion, it would have been bitching over this, the BlizzCon virtual reward. We got a new beta build this week with a few meaty changes that remind us that the Shadowlands delay was a pretty good idea. Experience values have been altered once again. Last week, they were reduced by about 30%. This week, the requirements were raised by about 13%, but the experience that you get per kill has also been raised by about 11%, while the quest XP rewards don't appear to have been changed at first glance. It sounds complicated, I know, and it's hard to quantify unless we were to sit down and run numerous calculations, and while that would be fascinating, that's territory that I don't really think is worth stressing over. I'm a bit more concerned about planning around the expansion's actual launch date, whenever that is, than whether it's going to take me 10 hours or 12 hours to reach level 60, but that's just me. One of the bigger and frankly more welcome changes to come have to do with Soulbinds, which have been kind of sort of turned upside down. What's happened is that the top and the bottommost rows have been flipped, making the Soulbind's more potent traits immediately accessible. For longtime WoW players, this shift in approach is nothing new. Back in the day, spec-defining abilities like Holy Shock were accessible as a bottom tree talent, accessible no sooner than level 40. Of course, today it's available baseline as soon as we choose a specialization, and that's what's being done here, giving a more immediate identity to a Soulbind choice. But I think we can definitely expect more changes to give each Soulbind something cool right from the start. For example, Valiant Strikes for Kleia is pretty poop, regardless of its position. There's also the case of the placement of slots, where we can place potency conduits. Critics have not budged, with their desire to basically have potency slots be a non-choice, meaning to move them from these choice positions to these mandatory positions here. There's also the concern that some potency rows will take longer to access on some soulbinds as opposed to others, which is perfectly fine to point out, but can you see what's happening here? With this criticism, all soulbinds need to be fair and balanced and accessible the same way, and if you folks at home and on the toilet seek that same sort of homogenization of choice, that's totally fine. That's also the show. This week felt like add-on week, because as promised, I sat down to try out LVY, and let me make it painfully clear, I do like it. In a different timeline, I could have chosen LVY over Pitbull, but I'd probably still turn almost everything off, and I'd turn off the default skins and fonts, and probably drive you even more nuts in my videos. My goodness, do you see this? Why is he suggesting that stupid add-on when he's literally using LVY? Ah! But to have the boss of Overwolf suddenly reach out to me and offer to answer questions, that was a total surprise though, and again, no, neither he nor Overwolf approached me or sponsored my coverage on the CurseForge client, but now I'm thinking, damn, did I miss out on a potential payout? So as mentioned earlier, BlizzCon 2020 would have been going on over this very weekend if all went as planned, which I'm going to blindly guess is unrelated to the planned launch of Shadowlands, whose original date was announced only a few months prior. It leaves me a little bit sober, right? I'm just standing here in my stage and not in Anaheim, and not looking forward to next week when Shadowlands could have launched. But on the bright side, the changes and the polish, they really are starting to come together, except conduit leveling. Come on, next week will be the start of the third week of the 9.01 patch, where we can assume that pre-patch events will not, unfortunately, happen, but the wait will definitely begin. As a passing thought, I wouldn't mind if, based on whenever the expansion drops, the pre-patch events happen a little bit earlier, and they last a little bit longer, just for the sake of giving people a little bit more to do. No doubt many of us are going to binge and burn through everything hella fast, farm up all the transmog, and start clawing at the door, hungry for more. Or we're going to get bored and unleash the great zombie apocalypse of 2020 because that's like one of the few things we haven't seen yet, right? But I don't think it would hurt to let content get a little ripe. We've had worse. Next week, we're back on our Night Elf Hobo adventures, as well as some focused testing on the beta, giving feedback on abilities and traits, and probably Torghast. So join us over on Twitch for some of them shenanigans every weekday morning that is not Monday or Friday. Like this video if you enjoyed yourself, and subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft. We'll see you next week, folks. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.